Before Diana Ross became Billie Holiday, before the Academy Award nomination, before the tears, the music, and the heartbreak-filled movie screens across America, there was a real woman whose life was far more complicated than most people ever knew. Today, we're talking about the story behind the 1972 film Lady Sings the Blues, the movie that reintroduced Billie Holiday to a new generation and transformed Diana Ross into a dramatic actress almost overnight. But how much of the film was true? Why was Diana Ross chosen for the role? And what did this movie change for Black actresses in Hollywood? Let's go behind the scenes. The film was based on Billie Holiday's 1956 autobiography, also titled Lady Sings the Blues. In that book, Holiday told the story of her rise from poverty in Baltimore and Harlem to becoming one of the most influential jazz singers in American history. Her voice was unlike anyone else's, fragile, yet powerful, controlled, yet emotionally raw. But her life was marked by hardship. She endured racism, abusive relationships, addiction, exploitation in the music industry, and constant scrutiny from authorities. She became famous for haunting performances of songs like Strange Fruit, a bold and painful protest against lynching in America. When Hollywood adapted her life for the screen, the result was powerful, but not entirely accurate. The film simplifies and rearranges much of her real story. Relationships were condensed, timelines were altered, certain traumatic events were softened. Some of the darker political realities, including the government's aggressive targeting of her, were minimized. The movie focuses heavily on her romance with Louis McKay and her struggle with heroin addiction, shaping the story into a tragic love narrative rather than a full exploration of systemic oppression. It's important to understand that what audiences saw was a version of Billie Holiday's life, not the complete truth. Now, let's talk about casting. When Diana Ross was announced as Billie Holiday, the decision sparked controversy. At the time, Ross was already a global superstar, the former lead singer of the Supremes and Motown's biggest solo artist, but she had never starred in a dramatic film. Many critics and jazz purists believed the role should have gone to a seasoned actress or a jazz singer with a style closer to Holiday's. Billie's voice was rougher, smokier, scarred by life. Diana's was polished and controlled. Berry Gordy, founder of Motown and a major force behind the film, believed in her. He pushed for Diana to take the role, convinced she could carry it. Ross prepared intensely. She studied Billie's movements, her speech, her posture. She lost weight for the role. She immersed herself in the emotional weight of the character. And rather than attempting to copy Holiday exactly, she interpreted the songs in her own voice. The gamble paid off. Diana Ross received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. It was her very first film role. The movie was also a box office success, earning over $20 million at a time when that was a major achievement, especially for a Black-led drama. In the early 1970s, Hollywood was changing. Blaxploitation films were rising in popularity. Studios were beginning to recognize the financial power of Black audiences. But serious biographical dramas centered on Black women were still rare. Lady Sings the Blues stood apart. It was not an action film. It was not a comedy. It was an emotional character study about a Black woman's pain, talent, and vulnerability. That mattered. The soundtrack became one of the most successful parts of the film. While some critics debated whether Ross captured Holiday's exact vocal texture, the album introduced a new generation to Billie Holiday's music. Record sales soared. Interest in Holiday's life surged once again. The film did something important. It kept her name alive, but it also shaped how many people understood her story, sometimes oversimplifying it. It focused more on personal tragedy than on the larger racial and political forces that contributed to her suffering. The FBI's targeting of her after she performed Strange Fruit, a song that boldly condemned lynching, was not deeply explored. Her lifelong battles with poverty and exploitation were softened for mainstream audiences. Still, the emotional impact of the film is undeniable. It transformed Diana Ross from pop icon to respected actress. It helped open doors for future Black biographical films. And it proved that stories about Black musical legends could succeed both critically and commercially. When you watch Lady Sings the Blues, you're watching two legacies intersect. You're seeing Billie Holiday, a woman whose voice carried the weight of a nation's pain, and Diana Ross, an artist stepping into dramatic history and proving she was more than just a chart-topping singer. The film may not tell the entire truth, but it ensured that Billie Holiday would never be forgotten. And sometimes, that's where history continues. If you enjoy going behind the scenes of classic films and exploring the real stories that inspired them, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Because history isn't just what happened, it's what we choose to remember. This movie, Lady Sings the Blues, is available to be watched as a full movie on our YouTube channel at the BLK History channel. A direct link to the movie will be provided in the description. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time.